Our weekly prime number segment here on Cold Hard Football Facts on the Pulse Network. I'm Butch Stearns, Kerry Byrne alongside from Cold Hard Football Facts. Let's start with Tim Tebow. And of course, he's in the news for a lot of reasons. But using our last segment and your curse of Wade Phillips and Doug Flutie, a lot of similarities. Tim Tebow is a Heisman Trophy winner, and all he did was win in college. He is unconventional, of course, even more so than Flutie was, but all he's done is win, and all he's done is win in the NFL. So I guess the lesson to be learned for John Elway and John Fox right now is to learn from Wade Phillips and not start a Tim Tebow curse, right?
I think that might be the number one lesson, absolutely. So, hey, if the guy's winning, you got to ride him. But with that said, he is unconventional, but he's doing a lot of the little things right that winning quarterbacks do, and he's getting no credit for it.
Like what?
For example, he has right now, granted, it's a very small sample, so I don't want to sound like we're trying to extrapolate over the course of his career. Right now, his touchdown percentage, the percentage of his touches that end in touchdowns is the best in history. Almost 7% of every touch, running and passing, ends in a touchdown. I'm just looking at some of the numbers. Aaron Rodgers, 6.1% of his touches end in a touchdown. Peyton Manning in his career, 5.5%. Tom Brady, 5.4%. 7% of Tim Tebow's touches ended a touchdown. So it may look ugly, but he's producing scores.
Let me back you up statistically. Here's the good and the bad. Since he's been a starter, he's completing 45% of his passes this year.
Yep,
Not
terrible.
good.
Terrible.
Horrible. The Jets game, you went there. I mean, there were 38 of the minutes where it was horrible in between 3 and outs. But of his 56 completions, 7 of those have gone for touchdowns.
He has an incredibly high touchdown rate, and more important than throwing touchdowns or scoring touchdowns, believe it or not, is not throwing interceptions. We have something.
He's thrown 1 pick.
1 pick this year and 3 last year, and he's still basically a rookie. His interception percentage, we have it here, 1.9% in his career. Actually, going into the after the Thursday game, 1.9%. Okay, best ever Aaron Rodgers, one of the best ever Aaron Rodgers, 1.8%. Tom Brady, 2.2%. Peyton Manning, 2.7%. And if you include running and fumbles, 1.5% turnover rate. The guy does not turn the ball over.
You're painting a picture that if you define it by efficiency and effectiveness, Tim Tebow was up there with the best of them. He may not throw as much.
Nope.
He's definitely not completing a percentage of passes, but he's not making the big mistake.
Exactly.
Only 1 interception. By the way, he's had 2 fumbles for a guy that runs the ball, but he's not lost either one of them. So that goes into the efficiency part of it. And to go along with it, he's got 3 rushing touchdowns and 4 rushes of over 20 yards or more in his 388 yards rushing.
The guys, it may look ugly for long stretches, but at the end of the day, he's winning. You don't win in the NFL without effective play at quarterback, and it may look ugly. He's not completing passes at an acceptable NFL rate. It cannot last long term unless he changes that. But right now, the production, the efficiency is much better than anybody gives him credit for, and that's why he's 5-3, by the way, with a terrible team. That was a terrible team until he stepped on the field.
He's 4-1 as a starter this year.
In 5-3, including last year. Yeah.
Right. So before we let Tebow go, and I've heard you recite these numbers before, and I went up and looked up even some more of them. For this year, for last week rather, he was 9 of 20, 104 yards. He rushed for 68 yards in the 20-yard when he touched him. Let's go back to his college numbers. Now I know these are a little bit skewed because every guy that plays in the NFL was somewhat dominant in college. But you make a great point. In the history of the SEC, Peyton Manning and other great quarterbacks, he has the all-time completion percentage at 67%.
Incredibly
and on top
accurate.
of that, here's the number that really sticks out at me. He started or played in 55 games. He wasn't a starter early on. In those 55 games, Florida won 48. They won 2 national championships. He passed for 88 touchdowns in 55 games.
And the big number?
And he ran for 57 touchdowns.
Yep. And the big number, 15 interceptions in those 55 games. He doesn't turn the ball over. If you compare him to Peyton Manning, again, Peyton Manning, by the way, played with great talent in the same conference. 3 of his receivers went number 1 or number 2 in the first round of the NFL draft. His team was good enough to win the national title the year after he left. Remember, with T. Martin, that Tennessee team won the national title. Tim Tebow was more accurate, had a much higher average per attempt, had a much better touchdown interception ratio, and a much higher rating, even using the NFL formula.